On a cool spring morning, Marissa tied the laces of her running shoes with a sense of anticipation. The park she had chosen for her morning run was bathed in golden light, promising a clear day. As she began to run, her thoughts turned to the daily routine and the small pleasures that awaited her. However, nothing could prepare her for the encounter that would change the course of her day. A few minutes into the trail, Marissa noticed something unusual on the side of the path. A large black bear was silently watching her. Her heart raced, fear quickly enveloped her, but she realized the bear showed no aggression. It seemed oddly calm. "What are you doing here?" Marissa murmured, more to herself than to the bear. The animal, with its piercing eyes, seemed to silently gesture for her to follow. Despite her fear, a wave of curiosity and a strange feeling of trust invaded her. The voice of reason in her mind screamed for caution, but the mysterious allure of the bear was stronger. "This is madness," she said aloud, hesitating. "But something tells me to trust you." Taking a deep breath, Marissa made a decision that defied logic. She would follow the bear wherever it led her. With a steady gaze and careful steps, she approached the animal, which then turned and began to walk slowly into the woods. "Am I really doing this, following a bear into the forest?" she questioned herself as the initial fear gave way to a sense of adventure and discovery. The bear glanced back from time to time as if to make sure she was still there. Marissa followed, each step increasing her determination to unravel the mystery that this unlikely encounter promised. As Marissa ventured deeper into the forest, following the large black bear, the light filtered through the trees created a mosaic of shadows and sunbeams dancing around them. The silence of nature was punctuated only by the sound of Marissa's footsteps and the occasional crackle of twigs under the bear's weight. "Where are you taking me?" Marissa asked, her voice a mixture of fear and fascination. The bear didn't respond, of course, but each glance it cast back seemed loaded with purpose. After a few minutes of walking, they reached a clearing where the sunlight bathed the ground with an almost sacred intensity. It was then that Marissa saw, next to a bush, a bear cub clearly in distress, with a paw trapped under a tangle of branches. "Oh no!" exclaimed Marissa, approaching carefully. "Did you bring me here to help your cub?" The large bear watched as she crouched beside the small one, examining the situation with a growing sense of responsibility. "Easy, little one. We'll get you out of there," she said, speaking softly to reassure the injured animal. Carefully, Marissa began to remove the branches, trying not to scare the cub. After a few tense moments, she managed to free the cub's paw, which limped away before turning to look at her with big, expressive eyes. "You're free now. Go. Find your mother," whispered Marissa, feeling a wave of relief and joy as she watched the cub reunite with the large bear. The large bear, in turn, looked at Marissa with what she could swear was gratitude in its eyes. "You needed me," Marissa acknowledged, her voice choked with emotion. "I never imagined I'd come to help a bear, and its cub." She stood up, watching the pair of bears slowly disappear into the forest, feeling strangely connected to these majestic creatures. With a light heart, but still pulsing with the adrenaline of the experience, Marissa realized that this unexpected encounter had changed something within her. The forest no longer seemed just a place to run. Now it was a realm of mysteries and unexpected connections. "What a day, huh?" she said to herself, smiling as she looked at the path where the bears had vanished. After the thrilling experience of rescuing the bear cub, Marissa felt a wave of curiosity and courage driving her to explore the forest further. She followed the path the adult bear and its cub had taken, marveling and somewhat dazed by the interaction she had just experienced. As she progressed, the vegetation became denser and the path less clear. After a few minutes of cautious walking, she stumbled upon something unexpected, an abandoned campsite. The place was in disarray, a half-collapsed tent, kitchen utensils scattered on the ground, and an old campfire with still fresh ashes. "What happened here?" Marissa spoke aloud, her curiosity mixed with a hint of concern. She approached cautiously, looking around. Inside the tent, she found a deflated air mattress and several pieces of clothing strewn about. Next to an open backpack, she saw maps of the region and a digital camera with the battery hanging out of the compartment. Looks like someone was really prepared to stay here for a while, she muttered, grabbing the camera and noticing there was still a memory card inserted. Let's see what you were trying to capture. Marissa turned on the camera and began to browse through the images. The first photos were landscapes of the forest and some animal tracks. But as she continued, the images showed several bears, including the one she had followed, and to her surprise, pictures of the cub with its slightly different, almost white, fur. This explains a lot, she said, realizing that perhaps the camper was studying or even hunting the bears. Determined to understand more about who had set up the camp and why they had hastily abandoned it, Marissa searched the area for more clues. Under a pile of dry leaves, she found a diary with a worn cover. She opened it to the first page, where a note caught her attention. Goal: capture images of the rare white-furred bear for documentary. So you were after the cub, she spoke, feeling a mixture of admiration and disapproval for the risk it posed to the animals. Marissa knew she needed to do something about this situation. With the diary in one hand and the camera in the other, she returned to the path, determined to protect those bears and uncover more about the camper's intentions. The forest, once a place of tranquil running, now revealed itself as the setting for a drama she couldn't ignore. With the diary and camera in hand, Marissa sat on a fallen log to delve deeper into the notes and images that could explain the bears' situation and the abandoned camp. As she flipped through the pages, she found detailed notes about the bears' behavior and various sketches of the white-furred cub. The diary's author described their fascination and determination to capture the perfect image of the rare animal. "Hope this image can be the highlight of my career," Marissa read aloud, realizing the camper's growing obsession in their words. The margins of the pages were filled with calculations and strategies to better capture the images, showing a mix of admiration for nature and an intrusive desire for fame. Continuing her reading, Marissa found an entry that revealed more disturbing plans. The diary detailed the setting up of non-lethal traps in the forest, with the aim of capturing the bear cub to ensure an exclusive photo session. "This is too much," Marissa closed the diary forcefully, her initial admiration for the camper turning into disapproval. She stood up, determined to undo any potential harm that their actions might cause to the bears. Armed with the camera and the diary as evidence, Marissa began to search for the mentioned traps. It didn't take her long to find one, hidden under dry leaves and almost undetectable. Carefully, she disarmed it, relieved to find no sign that it had been triggered. "I need to find all of them," she spoke to herself, aware of the seriousness of the situation. Marissa spent the next few hours scouring the area, finding and deactivating traps. With each one she disarmed, she felt more connected to the forest and its inhabitants, a guardian of nature unwilling to let human greed disturb the peace of the place. By the end of the day, exhausted but satisfied to have possibly saved innocent lives, Marissa sat again on the fallen log. She reflected on the unexpected journey she had undertaken, starting with a morning run and turning into a conservation mission. "Today I made a difference," she smiled, looking at the darkening sky, feeling more a part of the forest than she ever imagined possible. With the bears likely safe for now, Marissa knew her adventure in the forest was far from over. She planned to return the next day, continue her vigilance, and ensure the protection of the bears, a decision that marked a new chapter in her life, wilder and more connected to nature than ever before. At dawn the next day, Marissa returned to the forest, armed with a plan and renewed determination. She had spent the night researching bear behavior and tracking techniques, determined not only to continue disarming the traps, but also to ensure the bear cub and its mother were safe. Walking the same path she had taken the day before, Marissa noticed fresh paw prints in the mud, clearly from the large bear and her cub. Following them, she hoped to reunite with the animals and observe from afar, making sure they were well. "Let's see where you're hiding," Marissa murmured, following the tracks that wound through the dense vegetation. After a few hours of cautious searching, Marissa heard sounds of movement ahead. Hiding behind a large tree, she peered carefully and saw the cub playing near a stream while the mother bear watched attentively around. "There you are," Marissa smiled, relieved to find them apparently healthy and safe. However, her attention was quickly diverted by the sound of breaking branches in the distance. She crouched down, watching as a human figure approached the spot where the cub was playing. Marissa immediately recognized the camper from the camera photos, the man who had set the traps. "I can't believe you came back," Marissa whispered, anger growing inside her. Without hesitation, she emerged from her hiding place and began to move silently toward the man, who was now setting up a new trap, clearly unaware of her presence. "Hey! What do you think you're doing?" Marissa shouted when she was only a few yards away. The man turned abruptly, clearly surprised. His face paled as he saw Marissa approaching with the diary and camera in hand. "You need to stop this right now. These bears are not your toys to be used for your next documentary or whatever," Marissa continued, her voice firm and authoritative. The man hesitated, seeming torn, but then hung his head, clearly defeated. I just wanted to capture something truly unique," he began, his voice a mix of defense and remorse. "But you're right, I went too far." Marissa watched as the man dismantled the trap he had started to set. She decided she needed to ensure this wouldn't happen again. "I'm going to need you to show me all the traps you've set and help remove them," Marissa said, determined to protect the bear family and any other animals that might be harmed. Reluctantly, the man agreed, and together they spent the rest of the day removing each of the traps he had hidden throughout the forest. Marissa felt a complex mix of emotions: anger at what he had attempted to do, but relief at having intervened in time. After a long day of removing traps and ensuring the safety of the bears, Marissa and the camper, whom she now referred to by name, Thomas, walked back to the forest entrance. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the path, and the cool evening air brought a reflective silence. "I never thought I'd end up helping undo what I started," Thomas confessed, clearly shaken by being confronted with the consequences of his actions. "Thank you for showing me the error of my ways." Marissa nodded, acknowledging his gratitude, but remained vigilant, aware that the forest could still harbor other dangers, not just for the animals, but for them as well. "We need to make sure everything is secure before it gets completely dark," she said, as they checked a map to ensure they hadn't missed any areas. Suddenly, a strange noise cut through the forest silence. It was quick, heavy footsteps approaching. Marissa and Thomas froze, listening as the noise grew louder. "What's that?" Thomas whispered, looking around nervously. Before Marissa could respond, 3 hooded figures emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. They were large and intimidating, clearly not there to admire nature. "What are you doing here?" demanded one of them, their rough voice sounding threatening. Marissa stepped forward, her confident posture hiding the nervousness she felt. "We were just making sure the forest is safe for all its inhabitants," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The men laughed, a sinister sound that echoed through the forest. "Well, you found what you shouldn't have," said another, advancing toward them. In a swift movement, Marissa and Thomas stepped back, seeking any escape route. But before they could run, the largest of the men advanced, and the situation quickly threatened to spiral out of control. "Run!" Marissa shouted to Thomas, and they both started to run back along the trail, with the men in pursuit. Adrenaline surged as they ran, the shouts of their pursuers filling the air behind them. Marissa knew they needed to reach a clearer area to have any chance of escaping or defending themselves. After a tense chase, Marissa and Thomas managed to evade their pursuers by reaching a familiar point on the trail where the vegetation was less dense. Breathing heavily, they hid, watching until they were sure they were no longer being followed. "Who were those men?" Thomas asked, trying to catch his breath. "I don't know, but I'm starting to think they might be involved in something illegal here in the forest," said Marissa, her mind working frantically to piece together the puzzle. "Maybe illegal hunting or something worse." They decided it was safer to leave the forest immediately and report the incident to the authorities. As they walked back to the safety of the town, Marissa reflected on the day's events. The experience had been both terrifying and enlightening. She felt grateful to have been able to make a difference in the bears' lives, but also deeply concerned about human threats to nature. The forest, with all its beauties and dangers, had taught her a valuable lesson about the fragility and strength of wildlife. Upon reaching the town, Marissa and Thomas contacted local authorities and shared everything they had learned and experienced. They promised themselves to continue protecting that piece of wilderness, ensuring the forest remained a safe haven for all its inhabitants. Looking back at the silhouette of the trees against the darkening sky, Marissa felt a renewed connection and strengthened commitment to the natural world. She knew that her adventure in the forest was just the beginning of a long journey of conservation and environmental advocacy.